Oh, nice.
Okay, teacher
Okay,
does.
okay. So we can start. So can I start to, or you start?
You can start.
I can start. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my talk. I'm so sorry for the technical glitch at the beginning of the my lecture, and it took me a while. But now I'm sure you can see my my screen, my slides, and also you can see myself. I'm very happy to be here to talk about the political economy of Chinese economic development and its implication for the ASEAN economic recovery. And as you know, I'm with the Bui School of Development Study at Thammasat University. And this semester, I'm going to give 5 lectures. And each lecture will be about 1.5 hours. It's not the 3 hours as previously advertised. So it's only 1.5 hour. I'm going to talk about 1 hour and followed by a 30 minutes discussion. Okay, let's start. So before we talk about the Chinese economic, political economy and ASEAN economic recovery, we have to give some background introduction. So the first part, the outline, in the first part of my today's lecture is about the nature of the Chinese political system. It's about the political economy, right? We need to understand the nature of the Chinese political system, and also we see how this system, different interest groups within the system, and develop over time and under this political system, and then we know how we will see how the implication of the ASEAN economic recovery. And so this the first we will talk about the first part. So this lecture has 3 parts. One is about the nature of Chinese political system. We'll talk about the Communist Party's party state, and we'll talk about the goal of its economic development, why they embark on the economic reform, and why their economic why start the economic reform, and what's the direction they're going to go. And then the development model at different stage. We look at the role of course, the government, the party, and also the state-owned enterprise, the private business, and households. It's very important to understand the role of households in this economy, because a lot of interaction between the two, between China and ASEAN are undertaken by the private citizens, and we know how their role, how they those households grow, and in the economic development at different stage, and then this is a better understand their role in economic development than for us to fully understand how the ASEAN and China economy will interact. So this we talk about development model. This will have 3 parts. One is the failure of central planning and the emergence of the private sector, and also we'll talk about WTO accession that happened in about 20 years ago. WTO accession, that's a big event. And during the WTO accession, there is a process of the state-owned enterprise consolidation and the development of private sectors. So this is very big issues. We will have some focus on this. And then we talk about in the past 10 years, and there's a reconsolidation of state-owned enterprises under Xi Jinping. So this is a turn of the economic development. And that's so this the 3 stage for the development model. There are 3 stage. One is under the strict central planning, and then there's a reform and the WTO accession. Then there's a reconsolidation of the state-owned enterprise and the central planning. The last part is the implication for the ASEAN economic recovery. Okay, so the key elements of political economy analysis. This is some basic concepts. Before we go into discussion about the Chinese economy, political economy, we have some general discussion about what's the approach of the economic the political economy analysis. Basically, they simply put it, the political economy analysis methodology is we talk about the interest group, and the interest group, and we talk about the political process, and how the economic outcome, how these interest group interact under a framework or the political framework, and what's the process or political process that promote this interaction among different interest group, and certainly there has some economic outcome. So the political economy approach, in short, is interaction between economics and politics. So because we know that no society is homogeneous, we talk about one particular country. We know the country is composed of different social groups. And for example, we look at Thailand. In Thailand, we know there's workers and the farmers, there are civil servants, there are military, and they have intellectuals. So different group of people, they have a different social and economic background. And of course, they have a different political and economic aspiration. It's also true in China, but it's also true in China. So in this lecture, but we have different focus. On China, we talk about the state-owned enterprise, private business, and also the households. So within a given framework, they interact and generate various economic outcomes. And so within the overall framework, those elements can change over time. For example, let me use some Thailand's the case as an example. In Thailand, we know there's the political system was there's a big change in the political system in 1932. There's a Siam revolution. They changed from absolute monarchy to the constitutional monarchy. But ever since the Siamese revolution, there's many changes of the constitution, many amendments to the constitution. But the general political framework is the same. It does not change very much. But it's a constitutional monarchy. It's a constitutional monarchy. But also the different stage, they have a different interest group play a bigger role. Some play a bigger role, some play a minor role. In early years, that's the military government during the World War II, and this military government is very strong. And then there's civil servants, the group of civil servants, and also led by some intellectuals. And in the recent years, the farmers are mobilized to participate in the political process. So all those happen at different stage. Different players play different roles in different stage of this social and economic development, but under the general constitutional monarchy. But in China, it's also the same case. In China, it is in China we have the political system that was established in the 1949. In the 1949, so that's the political system has been established. It has never changed since then, but until today, it's still the same political system. It seems political, but they have a different stage. The early 30 years under central planning. Then after that, there's economic reform and opening up, and reform and opening up after that. So they have a different same political system that have been established in 1949. So what's the nature of the China's political system? So what's the nature of Chinese economic system? We know in Thailand it's a constitutional monarchy. We all know that. But in China, it's very confusing. It's very confusing because some people say this is the state capitalism. Some to say it's a socialist. Some to say it's a communism. Some say, well, it's a republic. Right? It's a republic. We really don't know. But sometimes you have to. Some say it's a totalitarian regime. Well, so it's a lot of discussion about the nature of the system. But if you read this constitution, they will see there are some discussion about the sovereignty of the of the nation belong to the people, right? To the people, and also they also specify there's a ruling political party, which is Communist Party. They have a election. They have uh, a parliament system. They have a president. They have a prime minister. They have a court. So it's very difficult just by reading the papers, reading the constitution. We have to understand the nature of this, the very nature. It's not easy. It's not easy. Let me give you an example. So it's the show on the screen is the flag of California, the California state flag. California state flag has a big animal on it. That's the grizzly bear. It's a grizzly bear. So when you're a foreigners, when you're foreign tourists, when you come to California, you probably see, well, this is the grizzly bear. It's a grizzly bear. Probably have a expectation that when you travel in California, you're going to see the grizzly. So it's grizzly. The California probably is the best called the Grizzly Republic of California. Grizzly is such a big animals in California. But in fact, when you travel in California, you will not see grizzly. Grizzly does not exist in California. So sometimes the example is that it's very, very, it's very, very, you have to be very careful to understand the nature of political system. Not simply look at the name of the country, not simply read the constitution. You have to really understand what's going on in the political system. So that's not easy. So it's not easy. So the example of the California Republic is the California flag is an example. Sometimes the public displayed image may not be true. So what's the nature of Chinese political system? We know the country established in 1949 is called the People's Republic. By republic, we mean it's a democracy, right? People's Republic or republic is a democracy, but actually it's a misnomer. The name is quite misleading. In fact, it's not. The official ideology, that's the communism. The ruling party is the Communist Party, but they call themselves the Republic. But that is very misleading. So you have to be very careful. So you have to be very careful to understand the official ideology of the country is the communism. So this is a one-party rule, which means there's no opposition party, right? There's no opposition party. When there's a country when there's a republic, there's democracy, there's a ruling party, there's an opposition party, and there's election. When there's election, one party will be in power sometime, but sometime they're not in the power, they're in the opposition. So they rotate. This just in Thailand. Some party was in power, then election, they're replaced by another political party. So this is the democracy, how democracy works. But in China, is from the country was first established for the regime. The government was first established in the we don't say the government, we say the regime. The system was established in 1949. It has always been ruled by one party, that's Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party. And the ideology is communism. And this is something written into their constitution. It's not like you read the constitution, you find out it's all in the constitution. So this the Communist Party is a ruling class, and is ruling a party of the country. And so there's the whole election. There's no such thing like election actually, but there's top-down selection, which means the top leaders select the officials below them, and the official is responsible for selection of the official further below. So the whole system is the political system is a top-down selection and not the bottom-up election. The bottom-up election is democracy. That's why we call it democracy, right? So that's the People's Republic actually is not really the people's. It's not really the people's, even though the name of the People's Republic has been displayed in many places. Like in China, we'll see the People's Hall or the Great Hall of the People. the People's Republic, or the people, even in the Communist Party's headquarters, there's a sign, they say, we serve the people. So all in the name of people, but actually the whole political system is top-down selection and not bottom-up election. This is just contrary to the nature, is contrary to the nature of the democracy. So it's the not really the People's Republic. So this is in short, this is the there's a many definition. What's the regime? What's the country is? There's a many discussion. Some say it's the official line has been many. It's socialist market economy. We are proletarian dictatorship. Oh, the name is we are the people's people's democratic dictatorship. This is the term in their constitution. They say people's democratic dictatorship. So there are many names. And in terms of economic system, they call this, sometimes they call the market economy, some market social, the market, the economy with the planning as the dominant by the economic planning, but supplemented by the market economy. Sometimes the socialist market economy with Chinese characteristics. But in short, all those names, I think the best way to characterize the political system is that it's the one-party totalitarian regime. So that's easy. It's just this, because once you understand this country, this regime is a one-party totalitarian regime, you can understand many other issues, the political issue and economic issues. So you have to have a mind. If you have said, oh, this is the democracy, this is a People's Republic, then you'll be confused. Why the way the economic is run in a way that's different, the contradictory to the interest of the people, right? But then when you have understanding of the regime is actually is a one-party totalitarian regime, then you'll see everything can be understood. Okay, this is the nature of the Communist Party, so the nature of the Chinese political system, right? So under this system, what's the interest group? The dominant group of political groups are the party, the government, and the military. The party, the government, and the military, but they all headed by one person. By one person. The one person is the actually the Communist Party's general secretary. Is also the president of the state, and also the commander, the chairman of the military commission. So it's the head of the military, head the government, and head the party. So this is the party is the on top of the political system, on top, and they are then there's another group, is a state-owned enterprise. State-owned enterprise are the economic arms of the regime. They manage to control this Chinese the party state control the economy through the operation of the state-owned enterprise. So that's it. So then there's a secondary group, the private business and foreign investors and private households, but those are small in the small. I mean small in the traditional orthodox the communist textbook. The private business are not allowed to exist. In the textbook example of the state of the communist state, there's no private business, and there's no foreign investors. Of course, no foreign investors. They have some organization beside, in addition, outside the state-owned enterprise. They call this a collective-owned, cooperative, the cooperative or collective-owned farms or collective-owned enterprise. By collective owns, they only means this is not private, right? Collective owned is owned by a group of people, not by an individual, not by an individual private citizen. So this is the when they talk about the collective owned, it's something short of a state owned, but it's indirectly owned by the state. So in China, all the land is owned by the state. Land is owned by the state. There's no private owned land. In the city, it is true in the cities. It also true in the rural area, in the countryside. So the farmland is not directly owned by the state, but it is not privately owned either. But it's owned by, they call it the cooperative. The collectivization, is owned by a group of farmers, collectively owned. By collectively owned, they just don't want to like the idea of the private owned, right? Collectively owned is a gray area between the absolute state owned ownership and the private ownership. So it's something away from the private ownership, but not exactly state owned, but it's indirectly owned by the state. So in fact, in China, all the assets, all the land is owned by the government. It's very important. It's very owned by the government. It's not owned by the individual private citizen. So it could be owned by a collective group of people, but the collective ownership only means it's not privately owned by the individual. So it can be interpreted as directly owned by the state. So in the traditional, pure form of a communist state, like in Russia, like in the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, like China, before it started reform, the first 3 years of the of China, after 1949, that's the period of time that there's actually no private business and no foreign investors. There are state-owned enterprise, and also there is a semi-state, collective-owned enterprise or collective-owned communes in the rural areas. All this asset is owned by the collective-owned or state-owned. There's no private ownership, and there's household. Of course, the only thing private is the private households. You have a private households. The private households does not. They own what they have. They have labor. But they don't have machine. They don't have a capital. They don't own the bank. They don't own the capital. They don't own the land. So basically, they are how to say proletarians. Proletarians is mean that the class, the political class that don't own anything, don't own any production, the means of production. So they are actually, the only thing they have is the labor. But this is very important. Why is it important? Because this determines the income distribution. And income distribution. Private households do not own the means of production. They do not own the land. They do not own the machine. They don't own the materials. The only thing they can earn a living is by provide their labor, to sell their labor. That's the only thing they have. But this is the structure of all the interest group in the Chinese political system, in the pure state of Chinese system. I mean, in the state when the China was the first, the communist government was first established in 1949. That's the scenario. No private business, no foreign investor. But later they can have a private foreign investor. But that's something later. So this okay. So the nature of the Chinese political system is let me talk about the starting point. Let's start with something like 1949. 1949, when the Chinese Communist Party was first established. This followed the model of the Soviet Union. Yeah, they just copied the Soviet Union model. All the political system is inspired by all the economic model, political system, economic model are inspired by the Soviet Union. So the goal of the Communist Party state is for the party state to survive and thrive. That's the only purpose. So the economic governance is still control all means of production, land, capital, materials, machine, etc., except labor. The labor is yours. Belong to the private households. But then the model of economic government is central planning, but no market. There's no market. Everything is central planning. There's no market. So what's the implication for this kind of arrangement for the income distribution? The low household income. The household is very, very poor. They're very poor. They are poor because all the production. If you own the land, you can get the rent. If you own the capital, you can get rent, right? Capital rental. Or if you own the machine, you get the owner of the machine, you get paid. But you don't own those. You only thing for the household to have is labor. So the only thing they can get is earning is the wage income, because the source of this income is very limited. They are very poor. So that's the situation of they are poor not because they don't work hard, because they only have the only thing they have is the labor. This is the only thing you can do in exchange for in exchange labor for some wage income. Okay, so this the stage of the Chinese development stage, but orthodox communist stage from 49 to 1776, under Mao, almost 30 years. But this is a failure. This is a total failure. I mean, the total failure because I don't have to talk too much about this because we just know what happened to the Soviet Union. Soviet Union is a strict communist state, but it's collapsed because the system doesn't work, right? The central planning, the public ownership, and the state ownership, the central planning simply don't work. And this happened when they spend a lot of resource into build their industrial complex, to build their military, to build their industrial infrastructure, but not very much to provide the how to say, but not very much for the livelihood of the people. So that's the system simply don't work. By the end of 1976, it's a total disaster for the country. That's why they think we can modify this model. We can do something. When the Mao died in 1976, that people start to explore new growth model. That's a 10 years period. They call this golden period. Actually, the paramount leader at that time was Deng Xiaoping, but the prime minister at that time or party secretary at that time was Zhao Ziyang. He's a liberal-minded communist leader. So there's a bold reform era as undergoing under Zhao Ziyang. But at that time, there's people. How can we characterize this period? We call this golden period. The golden period, we call this a golden period not because economically China has been a superpower at that time. China was very, very poor, still very poor during that 10 years, still very poor. Much lower GDP than today's China. But we call this a golden period is because people at that time realize the old model simply doesn't work. We have to explore new growth model. When we talk about the new growth model, we talk about reform. When they talk about the reform, they mean everything is possible. There's no red line. So what you cannot talk, right? What you cannot envision. Everything people can talk. So that's the golden period time. There's no, but somehow it has been gone too far, right? Some people too far. Then there's a Tiananmen in 1989. There's Tiananmen. Then the Communist Party realized we have to draw a right line. We have to make clear about the strategy of the economic reform. That's why after 1989 there is there is a period, the reorientation towards the state-owned enterprise. That's the whole areas under still under Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was alive at that time, but the party secretary was Jiang Zemin and Zhu Rongji at the year, and those people are thinking about still continue the reform, but the reform during that period of time a totally different orientation. So the reform is to strengthen the state-owned enterprise, prepare the state-owned enterprise to make them competitive in case China enters WTO, before to prepare China to liberalize its market and to join the WTO. During that period of time, there is a big quite important. They have long-lasting impact. That's they call this the reform state-owned enterprise. This grab the big and let go the small, which means the strategy of that time is to give the to keep the big state-owned enterprise in the strategic sectors, and then privatize the many other small money-losing enterprise, state-owned enterprise. So this gives opportunity for the private business to grow, because the private business will take over of this small state-owned enterprise. So there's a consolidation. So when China entered WTO, and then shortly after China entered WTO, the Jiang Zemin retired, and they replaced by Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao. But the Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao basically continued this strategy to consolidate the state enterprise, and also give the opportunity for the private business to grow, and also introduce the foreign investors. So this is another period. In start from Xi Jinping, when Xi Jinping came to power, he realized there has been the freewheeling economy pose a political threat. So then there's an economic consolidation under Xi Jinping to strengthen the party state. So this is another stage. This is in the past 10 years. So these slides give your we have to say this is the traditional first 30 years. The first 30 years under Mao was they practiced the orthodox communist rules, the economic planning. That's a disaster. Then they have started to change. So think about the new model. But during the first 10 years of economic reform, they just totally opened up their mind and to think about anything possible. Sometimes they are politically against the communist rule. So that's why it's a very bad. It's very bad from communist parties. They see this as a threat. So then in the after Tiananmen, there's a new strategy. They set up a new strategy, and that strategy has been continue until Xi Jinping was in power. He feel like the private sector has gone too much, then there's a consolidation. So this is the period of time of the stage, different stage, major stage, development stage under the Chinese Communist Party's one party state rules. So we see this the whole process is the central planning does not work, a failure. Then there's they allow the private business, but somehow they see the price cannot go that big. They have to they allow private business because they want to have the private business generate some blood and transfuse blood to the central planning system to sustain this existence, right? So this is the stage. Let me go through this. Let me go through this stage by in details. So central planning under the political Chinese early industrialization, that's under Chairman Mao. That's the central planning. So China nationalization, the nationalization in industry, but with Soviet aid, the collectivization in agriculture, and the monopoly of Green Bureau. The monopoly of Green Bureau is which means the government, there is strong central control. Everything is under the under the control of the Communist Party. They nationalize all the industries. Okay, the agriculture, they first during the Chinese Civil War, the Communist Party has promised the farmers to give them land. You know, if they to give them land, if they support the communists in the Civil War, they will get the land. But they indeed get the land. But then shortly after the Communist Party comes to the power, they take back the land. They collectivization. There's a collectivization program in agriculture. So what's the goal of this whole process is to build heavy industry at all cost. So what's the cost? The all cost, there's in the late 1950s to late 1950s, there's a great leap forward movement that resulted in the famine of and with 30 million people there died from starvation. So that's the biggest failure of actually this is the results of the China's industrialization. They are central planning. They are heavy-handed to control the economy, to build heavy industry. So household or consumption at minimal, very, very minimal. The household very poor. So, but they don't. The economy is not built to encourage consumption at that time. The economy was that built to encourage investment, to build industrial complex, right? To build heavy industries. That's the whole purpose of the Chinese early industrialization. But the result is not that good. But it can say it's good because they build some they have a industrial complex has been established, of course, with the Soviet Union, with the aid from Soviet Union, but the price paid is too heavy. The price is heavy, but the economic performance is not very good. You know, they have some established, but the cost is too high. The price is too high. The Chinese economy is probably at the brink of collapse when Mao died in 1976. So then we start to reform in the golden 1980s. At that time, there's no the disaster among the central planning, economic collapse, and social turmoil and political crisis. Social turmoil is a cultural revolution. You know, the cultural revolution is the social turmoil. If you want to understand China, you have to understand the social, this cultural revolution. That's the, that's the social turmoil and political crisis. You know, that's the that's the key feature of this the first 3 years of the China's industrialization. So the way forward, what do you think? The way forward at that time is anything but continuous approach. They just start from start something they try to stay away from Mao's approach. What policy at that time, what economic policy they have introduced is the economic incentive. So they try to introduce the responsibility system. They say, if you work more, you get paid more. So this is the idea that you work more, you get paid more. The incentive system. Reverse the rural collectivization. They return the land to peasants. Now the land can be leased to the peasant for long term, like 30 or 20 or 30 years. So the farmers will have a incentive to produce more. The more produce, the more it can retain, right? You have to submit some your grain output to the state, but then you can retain more. And you are also allowed to do some you also allowed to raise chicken and pigs and to grow vegetable fruits to sell in the market. And so this similar responsibility also introduced state-owned enterprise. So they try to stay away from the rigid ideology of the Mao and try to introduce some capitalism into the system, right? So into the system. So the private enterprise at that time was emerged in the countryside. They have a township village enterprise. They're all private, right? They're all private. domestic commerce. They have in the city. They also have shops, restaurants, and even some manufacturing companies. But they put so some of the loss-making state-owned enterprise are leased to the private management. So this is the privatization at very small scale, So anything is moving towards a more private business at that time. So this is the significance, considering in the first 30 years, private ownership was not allowed. But in the 1980s, it is encouraged. They don't. The private businessmen feel they are more proud than the state-owned enterprise employee. Yeah, they are encouraged. They have give them a political status. So they're very they're very proud, encouraged during the 80s. And also politically, there's talking about the political reform. People talk about what's the future of China will be. There's a lot of discussion about it. Probably they have a democracy, they have a multi-party system, they have a free press. They're talking a lot about the political reform, and even call for the total westernization. So there's some of the university professor has been very active in promoting these ideas. That the one line is he tried, he's a astrophysicist at my undergraduate university. At that time, I was talking about the China's import of foreign technology. His argument is that we don't have to import those foreign technology or foreign stuff. The only thing we need to import is we import a prime minister. So if we have a import foreign minister, they can have initiate economic reform and political reform. We have a total westernization. This go like the Western countries, go for the political system in the Western countries. That's very, very broad. That's very bold call for political reform. And until 1989, June 4, 1989, then there's a student demonstration in Tiananmen Square, and there's a crackdown by the military. The tanks roll into Tiananmen Square, then they crash all those aspirations for political reform and economic reform. So they have to, after that, the Communist Party has the rethinking. What should we do? What should we do? The Communist has to rethinking. What should we do about this reform? We cannot let people to talk about this the economic and political development without any right line. We have to do a right line. So the right line at that time is that have to stick to the Communist Party's rule. We have to have the state-owned enterprise in dominance of the economic sectors. So the state and central planning has to be our top priority. And we allow the private business, but they are only at a secondary position. They cannot go too far. So there's a line that jumped from a red line after the Tiananmen Square. So after Tiananmen Square, there's several developments. Domestically, there's a reassert the central authority. The government start to have arrangement. Central government and local government has started arrangement about tax sharing, fiscal sharing. Fiscal sharing, which means that the local government, the central government collect all the tax revenues from the local government. So the local government has to think about how to manage their finance. And so because of the fiscal sharing or tax sharing system initiated under the central and between the central and local government is meant to strengthen the fiscal position of central government. They get all the tax. The locals have to give all the tax to the central government, but the local government does not, where the local government has to get the money. They have to think about it. Oh, probably we have to invest, have more foreign investment. We probably have to think about, encourage more business private business. So this the all the burdens for the running the local government, financial burden has been put on the local government. The central government just take over the money, most of the money from the local government. So there's a big problem after that. I mean, the central government, the local government has to think about how think about a way to raise tax revenue to finance their operation, right? To finance the operation, to pay their civil servants. That's a big problem. And the state-owned enterprise we talked about earlier, then there's a grab the big and let go small. They focus on the big state-owned enterprise in the key strategic sectors. That's telecom, energy, and banking, auto, and railway, shipping, aviation, all those important sectors. These sectors, the state-owned enterprise, big state-owned enterprise in these sectors are give the support of the government. The government focus on those big sectors, big SOEs, and give them support. But then for those other small, they just say, okay, we just let you go. You can do what they just let them go. They don't want to support those other state-owned enterprises anymore because their performance is not very good. Their performance is not very good, and they're not important. They're not important because they are not in the strategic important sectors. So all those state-owned enterprise has been let go. And who is taking care of those sectors? This gives the opportunity for the private business to emerge. So those small state-owned enterprise are actually go through the privatization process. Is go to the hand of the private business people, right? Some of the private business people that have connection with the government, they just buy this state enterprise in a very low price. But anyway, this strategy give the room for the private business to grow, mostly in the non-strategic sectors. They are furniture makers, and they make a household household appliance, and they make the like air conditioning fans, and their refrigerators and televisions, but the key sectors, the banking sector, telecom, energy, railway, they are controlled by the big state enterprise. And because their number has been concentrated on this big one, this enables the government to support them, right? The government want to support them, but the government cannot support all of the state-owned sector. That's the reason behind this. They want to have a big one, and they want grab the big one, and also they let go the small one. So this is the opportunity for on the one hand, they strengthen the state-owned enterprise. On the other hand, they give the room for the private business to grow. So that's the state-owned enterprise reform in the 1990s. That's in the yeah. Also, they have introduced the market in many sectors. They're talking about the stock exchange is set up, and they introduce the market, and they liberalize the exchange rates, foreign exchange market. They have a stock market. They are trying to build the shareholding system. Everything is introduced the market into the system. So basically, it's the further strengthening of the state sector, and at the same time give the bigger room for the private sector to grow, right? Introduce the market as a supplement to central planning. So this is the development. So basically, this the way the economic governance under the party state has been diversified. And they do this is of course this the main reason they do this is because they want to join the WTO. They want to join the WTO, but the WTO has the rule, has the standard. You have to follow the market principle. You have to follow the market principle in order to be a WTO member. But in addition to the liberalization in the trade liberalization, foreign investment liberalization, you have to have a domestic market system in place to qualify yourself as a market economy in order to be a WTO membership. So that's the why they have to prepare the countries to be WTO membership. But why they want to be a WTO membership if they have to introduce all those capitalist elements into the country, which is against the communist rules, communist ideology? That's my question. So why do they introduce the capitalist elements, which is against the Marxist ideology, against the central planning? Of course, we know that internally the reason is that they want to have a create economic sector that can help with the economy and help with the old political system, right? Political regime, help with them. Because in the first 3 years, their old approach, it doesn't work, right? It's a disaster, it's failure, a disaster. They want to create this a healthy economic sector that can subsidize, sustain this regime. Well, that's the motivation. But in order to do this, they have to have access to the foreign market. The key foreign market, one of the most important foreign market, is the U.S. market. So what happened in the 1990s when the U.S. market was an issue? The issue is after the Tiananmen crackdown, the West imposed sanctions against China. The sanction, military equipment and high-tech embargoes, this section. But also there's a key issue is the U.S. government start to think your access to our market is subject to the annual renewal. So every year, the Congress, the U.S., the president has to review with a lot. They have to review the human rights records of the Chinese government, and to make sure if there's improvement, their human rights conditions are satisfactory and not too bad, in order for the continuation of the most favored nation status. What's the most favored nation status? Because the most favored nation status is a tariff. It's a set of tariff given U.S. government given to the WTO members, right? It's very low. It's about 3% or some under 5%. This is the most favored nation tariff. Most favored nation tariff is a tariff that for WTO member enjoy this low tariff. But China was not a WTO member. So China does not automatically enjoy the MFN status. So which means US can give China MFN status, but US can also stop giving the MFN status, which is another set of tariff, which is very, very high. It's about, it's high, it's about, 20% or something. It's 20% of tariff, or 15 or 20% tariff, and tariff. Then they on the 5% tariff. One is about 15, I think it's 15, 20% at that time. And the MFN tariff is only about 3 to 5%. It's very low. So it's the U.S. government at that time during that year say, well, I give you the most favored nation status, but I can only give you on an annual basis. It's not permanent. So every year you have to review it. If we see your human rights records, there's a violation of human rights, we'll stop giving will stop the MFN status. By that stopping MFN status, your tariff probably will be much higher next year. So there's uncertainty in access to US market. This year, maybe only 3% of tariff on average tariff. But next year, if something happens, it could be 15 or 20%. That's a big issue for business. Because US is a big market, if a foreign investors, they want to invest, they choose between if we should invest in ASEAN or invest in China. That's have access to US market is a key considerations. They don't want to invest in the country that produce the goods that cannot sell in the United States, right? That's the big issues. So also they give a business confidence is very low if they don't have access to the state on to US market. So that's a big headache. Every year during this period of time, every year there's annual debate whether or not we'll continue to give China's most favored nation trading status in the United States. That happened all year. That's a big headache. But China was on a very difficult position at that time. You want to develop your economy, economy. You want to have a private sector to grow. You want to have a foreign investor to come to the country. You need to make sure you have access to US market. You don't have the US market. What should you do? Then why not join the WTO? Because once you join the WTO, you automatically enjoy the most favored nation status for all countries. And US cannot revoke your MFN. If US want to increase the tariff, you can file a complaint with the WTO, and there's an arbitration process. You have to follow this arbitration process. So that's the very motivation to have a permanent access, to secure the access to the US market for trade. That's the key on the key issues after the TMN. That's the motivation. That's something they work very hard to achieve in order to promote this economic growth. So that's why all those economic reform in the 1990s aim to prepare the country to enter the WTO in order to have access. You have the permanent access, secured access to the key foreign market. So that's the issue. Our foreign investor, also during that time, their foreign investor some of the foreign investors come to China. They come to China for domestic market. They come to a foreign investor like German auto makers. They want to come to sell in China but tariff is very high. And when they say they just want to invest in China, to produce in China, to make car in China and sell in China. But that time what they do is to form a joint venture. In exchange for access to the Chinese domestic market. Another group of investors is a low-tech joint venture for processing trade. They produce some low-tech electronics and or some low-tech products and for export to the foreign market. And they also work in the sectors is processing trade sectors. I'll talk about it later. So this is the Tiananmen Square. There's after Tiananmen Square, there's the key issue at the time to join the WTO in order to secure access to its market, right? Because when you have the market, the foreign investor will come to China to take advantage of China's cheap labor and produce for the US market. And that's good for to attract foreign investment come to China, right? So especially for those kind of low-tech and joint ventures produced for the overseas market. Okay, once China entered the WTO, all have been said. People are very happy because the WTO required China to be a market economy, to have transparent, to establish rule of law, and so this China in WTO, people have a big hope at the time, very optimistic about the future of China. And they believe China will be moved towards a more liberal direction, in a more liberal direction. That's the China in the WTO. So optimism in the air, but actually that's a false hope. Give people false hope. They during the China's accession, there's a big debate in the Washington, in the West, as to whether or not we should give China a WTO membership, because some people, China is a communist dictatorship. We should not allow them to enter WTO. Some people say they, Clinton administration, Bill Clinton administration, at that time, that has been the argument is that the West, now we see this wishful thinking, because WTO will level the playing field, give the opportunity to private business to grow and to nurture the middle class. And those will help the political change towards liberal. So economic development will induce the political change. And this political change will be was a Western democracy, right? To be a democratic system. So that's the at that time during the after the China entered WTO in the first 10 years, the first decade of 21st century, there is a high hopes, but it turned out to be a false hope because the West thinking about it by bringing China into WTO, subject to its rule of law, to the rule of law, China will be on the track to change towards for better. For better, they mean to be more like a Western democracy in the long run. But the Chinese government understands this. Chinese government understands this, so it helps to have a liberal appearance. To look like we do change. It's good we do change because China has to business with the West, right? So during the year after China entered WTO, that's under the new leaders. It's Hu and Wen. Hu and Wen is Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao is in the first half of after the Chinese government after China entered WTO. There's a quite a big quite good development. Civil society are developed. There's a foreign NGOs coming, and there's a lax internet control. You can access to New York Times, to Washington Post, and you can read the newspaper, like Financial Times in China, and there's a lot of foreign magazines coming to China, foreign movie, foreign magazine, and there's a private think tanks. Civil society, they have a environmental group. They have all these kind of NGOs are developing. It's developing. So this is very promising. People are very optimistic, very promising, very promising during that year. It cannot compare with the 1980s. 1980s is different. It's different. But it's better. It's better than it's better. They give the people hope. We are going to move towards the political environment that's similar to the 1980s. So that's the hope. Probably eventually we're going to reverse the verdict of the Tiananmen Square to give the name, clear the name of the protesters in Tiananmen Square. We probably will have come to that stage. So that's the people's people's spiritual outlook at that time. They are very promising. They were happy to see China on the WTO. They are happy to see the foreign firms come to China. They're happy to see there's the change for the better is going on. It's happening in China. But the Chinese government would like to tolerate this because they believe this will help the image, right? Help image, help them to dealing with the West, to dealing with the United States, dealing with the European and Australia. So they make them liberal. It's easier they need this kind of cover to make them look like they are moving towards the Western democracy. But actually in their heart, they are still the Communist Party state. That's the heart and the hardcore of this the communist leadership. They still think in the traditional orthodox communist way, but from for they also want to cultivate an image. It's a tolerance. It's a liberal. They want a tolerance image to show to the West that your decision to allow China enter WTO is the right decision. The right decision to make their looks consistent with the West expectation. So it's a very good period of time, and also people have a good expectation of the future development of the economy, and then that's the time that economic takeoff at that time, right? During the 1920, the first 10 years of the 21st century, there's a big development. China economic, the growth rate is more than 10%, every year, more than 10%. It's a big foreign investment flow into China, and China export. Oh, sorry, and also China has been. So this is it's good years immediately after WTO and the WTO. On the other hand, the issue is the labor rights is still going on. The goal of the parties is never forgotten. You know, the issue of labor rights has always been already been there when the U.S. government has signed a trade agreement with any foreign countries. They have to emphasize the labor and the environment. They want to make sure your labor rights are protected. You are not running slave shops, right? They don't want to see the prisoner labor. Okay? They want to make sure the labor rights are protected, and this but this is the thorny issues they have been arguing with. They have been negotiating with China, but Chinese government has been slow in response to U.S. demand to protect the labor rights. One of the reasons is that they just don't want it to be a labor to have a strong political influence. They don't like the union to like a union. They don't like the collective bargaining. They don't like this because they believe this. If they're unionized, they will have a independent political force. There's so many other reasons. There's a many reasons they don't want they enforce the labor rights, and the effect is that the labor will never become a political force. Also, they will have they'll make the labor difficult to negotiate on the wage. So the wage cost is already been low, So that's this is this makes sense because if you think, but it is difficult to understand if you look at the name of the Communist Party. The name of the countries is the People's Republic. People's Republic. They're talking about the people a lot. So how can China does not protect the labor rights, right? That's very difficult to understand. But if you think the regime, the government is actually the political system is a party state. It's a party state totalitarian regime. Their goal is to survive, to make the party state survive and thrive, right? That's not, and never been to serve the people as is claimed by the Communist Party. It's never been. They just claim that. It's just like the grizzly in the California state, right? They put grizzly on the flag, but they don't have grizzly actually. But so don't be fooled by this political slogan. The goal of the Communist Party never been to promote the welfare of these people. It's not. That's determined by the nature of the political system. On the other hand, they are on high alert about peaceful evolution. That's the hard lesson they learned from 1989, Tiananmen Square. So I have been very careful about the peaceful revolution. Peaceful revolution is the idea, it's you don't need a revolution. We don't need a revolution to change the communist regime. We need a peaceful revolution. We influence the people, the young people, about influence the idea and influence them to change over time. So, but this the Communist Party has been very vigilant against the peaceful revolution. So that's why they try very hard to protect the old system, the hardcore communist system, to keep this alive and also strengthen them. So that specifically in terms of economic policy, they try to protect and subsidize SOE. How they can, and then also they put more money to build the military and the police. How they could do this? But because they have foreign investment, they have a private business, they generate revenue, they generate tax revenues. They make them, more economic resource to do so. So on one hand, you can see this something. On one hand, there is foreign business, private sectors is help build this economy, and because of the development economy, the government has more resource to put into to reinforce the old party state apparatus to make sure they are in a strong position. So that's the idea. That's the idea, right? That's the idea. But under Xi Jinping, the thing has been changed. Xi Jinping, Wen Jiabao, and all other Jiang Zemin, Wu Yaobang, those people are actually, they are Communist Party member, yeah, but they are not the, how to say, they are not the, belong to the top group of the people, which means they are not the, they are not the real owners. They are not the owners of these countries. They are the managers hired by the real owners who run these countries. So that's why, it's how to say, it's that's why under Wen Jiabao, and we say Wen Jiabao is kind of oh, I think I did this. Oh, I see. Under Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao, and the weak leader, they are weak leaders, that there's no major overhaul of the development model. They just take over. Jiang Zemin left to him and just run the economy as it is. There's no major initiatives, no or any reform. So no any reform. But this changed until Xi Jinping came to power. Because Xi Jinping he believed himself is a red royal. Xi Jinping is a red royal because his father is a veteran communist revolutionary. Yeah, so this his father is a veteran revolutionary. So he believes he has the mandate. He's the real owner of this country, of the regime. So what he feel? He feel the civil society and free will economy have gone too far, all those interest group develop in the past 20 years or some past 10 years, 20 years, has a rising political cloud, then they compete for power. So he has a sense of insecurity. Now, what does she do? What does Xi Jinping do? So there's a reorientation back towards the orthodox communist rule. That's what he's doing. So what he did is he started to crack down on liberal publication and independent think tanks, and purge the CCP officials in the name of anti-corruption. So arrest political dissidents and human rights lawyers. So this tighten the leash on the private business. We know the Alibaba is a big private enterprise, but then they have to be subject to they have to give the company to the state-owned enterprise, and they have to give up their control of the business. So this have tried to, the reason they target the Alibaba is because Alibaba has been so influential, so powerful. If they're small, they will not care about this. But it's because it's so powerful, they have to worry about it. Probably Ma Yun has political ambitions, or they want to undermine the Xi Jinping's rule. So that's why it's so under Xi Jinping, he's become a strong man. He's become strong because he believes he can do this. He has a mandate because he's the owner. He believes he's the owner of these countries, and he's a red oil, a red royal. I mean, he's a real master of the country, not just a manager, not a management of this. So he's a master, the owner of the country. So he feel he has a political uh, mandate to do so. So that's what and that's what happened. That's what happened. He want to keep the traditional orthodox way of communist rules. That's what he want. Because if we don't do it, his power will be weakened. His power will be weakened. Some interest group, their power, they want to share the power with the ruling Communist Party, but he doesn't like this idea. That's why he have a sense of insecurity. He's talking about security, security, security. People talk a lot of security only because he feel insecure. He feel insecure. He feel insecure because under the past 10-year economic growth and also civil society development, there's a lot of interest group, and those interest group is having rising political clout. They will have a political aspiration. They want to have influence the path of the country's development, and this is something Xi Jinping doesn't like it. This against the communist rule, the original purpose, original goal of the purpose. Original goal purpose is to strengthen the party state. That's it. They don't want anything compete, share. They don't want to share the power with anybody else. So that's what Xi Jinping does. Here is a picture. There's when Xi came to power in 2012 to become a general secretary of the Communist Party and become the president of the country in 2013, he started to feel, somebody does not follow does not respect him, does not respect him. During the 2015, he tried to pop up the stock market. He tried to pop up stock market in order to use to give the state to help the state-owned enterprise to raise money to solve their debt problem. So that's his intention, or his government intention, try to pop up the stock market. However, during the summer of the 2015 and until the 2016, there has been a crash. There have been crash. I think this is the issue is in July, in 2015, the summer of 2015. The stock market just keep collapsing. Then Xi Jinping believed this is a financial coup against him, because that's wrong engineer. The whole financial market collapse was engineered by the people in the financial sectors. And those people had their own interests. They want to hijack the government. And they want to hijack government. They want to hijack government and held the government as hostage so that to benefit themselves, to benefit the financial sector, to enrich themselves. So that's why they don't follow this. They play in the market against the Xi Jinping. So they engineer, financial market, stock market crash. Xi Jinping was not very happy about this. She was very angry when he realized people in the financial sector are not listen to him and not follow his order, are not politically reliable. That's the one reason he started to think, we got to do something about this bureaucrats, about those civil, about this interest group, and business people to make them toe the line. And what start is then they have start to crack down, purge, and arrest people. See this, you see, if you follow the Chinese media report, you'll see there's many reports about the people in the financial sector have been arrested and put in jail. That's the revenge of Xi Jinping for the sectors he feel he does not have control. Yeah, they want to do something. So all those development is Xi want to regain the control of the Communist Party, want to control the party state, want to make sure other interest group people are not make trouble. So that's does not have a threat, pose a threat to him. So that's what he's doing. Okay, this is the development. So in all those development, we know Chinese middle class has been grow. Chinese middle class been grow. Some are make very rich, but for the general public, they benefit. They also benefit, but they make money. They have they accumulate wealth, but because most of people don't own anything but their labor, there are very few opportunities for them to accumulate wealth. So generally speaking, this household income has been low because has been low in the GDP, has been constant low. That's determined by the initial condition. Under communist rule, they confiscate all these private owned assets. So they have nothing but their hands. That's the only thing they can work. But they don't have this is the only thing they can make money. But the only thing is to sell their labor to earn a wage. So that's very hard, very difficult for them to get rich. But some business people get rich. You see, people get rich and they own the business. But most of the population, they are not very well off. They're not very rich. So that's determined by the starting point, the initial condition, the starting point when the Communist Party take over power, because they just, because by the initial condition, the government monopoly all the assets, land, capital, and everything. So that's why the general public, the private households, the income is very low, very small in terms of its share in the GDP. It's very small. Okay. In addition to that, foreign ownership. When foreign investors come to China, they have two purposes. One is to have access to Chinese market, right? Another is to access to the cheap labor. For the people to have for the foreign investor come to China, they want access to the Chinese domestic market. They are required to form a joint venture with the state-owned enterprise that transfer technology to state-owned enterprise. And in return, the state-owned enterprise help them to sell in the Chinese domestic market. So this is the market exchange for capital and the technology. So this is the way to strengthen the state-owned sectors, right? But for another group of investment, they produce for the foreign market. They come to China to take advantage of cheap labor. Those investment previous invest in ASEAN, right? Now, because financial crisis in 1997, and because China entered WTO, they just moved to China, right? Those people, they come to China to produce for the US market. But when for US market, they form a joint venture with China's private Chinese firms. Those private Chinese firms, they produce for the foreign market. They hire migrant workers. They hire a lot of workers. They come from a rural area in the countryside, from area. So it's good for the migrant workers earn earn better income than their counterparts left at home in the countryside. So they make some money, but the government does not want them to. They don't want them to how to say. They don't want to have the wage too high. They don't want them too high. They want to have a the government does not want to help them to bargaining with the foreign investors to hire higher wage. They don't want it because they because if the wage is higher, China will lose its competitive advantage, right? To other countries like Vietnam or India or some other countries. So they deliberately try to make the labor cost low. But by doing so, they introduce, by doing so, they can keep the foreign investors stay in China, come to China, and make goods sell in the foreign market, right? The earn foreign exchange for China, promote Chinese exports in China, but that's help them. But also this the way by keep the wage cost low, they keep the foreign investor coming. They keep export export to the U.S. market growing, right? That's the way they earn foreign exchange. They earn foreign exchange. So this when they earn foreign exchange, they have another resource, more exports, more export revenues. They have more resource to subsidize the state-owned enterprise and to subsidize the state-owned business. But the loser in this kind of arrangement is the workers, Chinese workers. The winner is foreign investors and the Chinese, state and the Chinese how to say and the Chinese and the Chinese government who own the land, who own this or land, who own the equipment. So that's the some people criticize China has been dumping, has been unfair competition because the wage is very keep too low. And so this unfair competition on the part of China, but the Western critics has been complain about this. But the arrangement, I think, is kind of deliberate arrangement because they want to keep the wage low to keep the foreign investors happy and also keep the foreign export, Chinese export grow in order for the government to have the foreign exchange, right? And at the same time, because the wage is low, there's those people are interests are not protected. But they can't do this because those migrant workers, they don't have these political rights. They don't have a political representative in the government. China does not have a bottom-up election. So there's no way they can do it. They just accept this. There's no way they can, complain about this, but to express their unhappiness, but they only have they can only just accept this. So the foreign investment in China eventually help with the state-owned sectors and depress at the expense help with the state-owned sectors, help with the foreign investors, but hurt the Chinese workers. This is the political economy. Chinese workers, this is another reason they keep the Chinese households income low in total GDP. And also this is another reason, right? The first reason why I talk about it is because they don't own anything, right? They only have the labor to sell. But at the labor market, the government and also foreign investors don't want to see the higher wage. So this is another reason their wage is very low. Their income is low, right? This is well, the private households, we see this. Oh, okay. How about the investment? How about the investment? If they, if the Chinese households can get rich through the stock market and real estate, the answer is no. The reason they no is that they don't have other opportunity for investment but stock market. But stock market is by design, the stock market, the Chinese government divided the stock market is to create another venues for the state-owned enterprise to get funding from the private citizens, because the Chinese households have a lot of savings. But those savings, they save money. They don't spend a lot. They save money. They want to put something to they want to invest, but then create the stock market. But stock market is designed to take the Chinese household savings, funnel the money into the state-owned sectors. But it's different to reduce the burden of government, reduce the burden of the government, If there's if the government wants to support the state-owned enterprise, it could use the how to say. Let me think about it. Okay, in short, the stock market actually does not protect the interest of the investors, the private investors. They are designed for the state-owned enterprise to take the money from the private business, private households. So sometimes they call this the Chinese stock market is a state-owned enterprise ATM machine. When they need money, just issue stock in the stock market and get financing, But they do not. The stock market performance is very, very poor. It's very poor. So it's very difficult for the private household to get rich through the stock market investment. This is the one channel. Another channel is real estate. The real estate, we know China's housing price has been growing, has been rising in the past 20 years or something, has been very, very fast. Housing is very, very expensive. But the driver of the housing market actually is the local government. The local government own the land. They own the land. They generate the local government. Earlier we talked about the tax sharing between the central government and local government, right? Most of the tax revenues, they submit tax revenue to the central government, to Beijing. But local government has to think about how to get the money. But the one way they get the money is to sell the land. They own the land, right? They can sell the land to the developer, and then developer sell the apartment to the Chinese households. Well, it is in the interest of the local government to see the housing price higher and higher, because the higher the housing price, the higher the revenue from the land sale, right? So the real estate sector actually is designed to generate the maximum revenue from land sale to the local government. So they're not talking about the affordability of the housing. They're talking about how to generate the maximum tax revenue for the local government. So this is the this is drivers of the rising price of real estate market to finance local government. In other words, we can call this is a Ponzi game, right? It's a Ponzi game. They borrow money to encourage the developers to borrow money to buy the land, then this the machines keep running. to make the land more and more expensive. The result is when the ordinary households to buy the apartment, they have to put down payment, and they have to borrow money from the bank. All the burden was put on the private households, right? But they have to pay the mortgage payment. That's very big because it's very expensive. They have to pay the mortgage payment. So when they had to make a mortgage payment out of their salaries. So after paying the mortgage payment, the money left for consumption will be very little, very little. But the real estate market is a bubble, right? It's a bubble. It means just speculation. It's not the real investment. It's a speculation. The whole thing is to generate money for the local government, right? So this is a not sustainable way to generate the wealth as it happened in Chinese real estate market. You see the price of the housing is declining, and the housing is declining, and this and some if you there's a is people cannot the price the housing is start declining in some big cities. It's very bad in the stress. This real estate market is in the stress. In short, it's private households income from wage is limited, right? From wage is limited, and their chance to generate good investment from stock market and real estate market are not good, not good. So all those combined and generate, or all those combined together, is all these elements combined. What the outcome? All those elements, factors combined produce a scenario that's the Chinese produce a situation that the Chinese household spending is very, very little. It's very little. This graph show the household spending compared to other countries has been very, very low, right? It's below the world average. It's below the world average. Yeah, so this is the situation. So spending power, the consumption of the Chinese consumers is very limited. It really is very limited. If the economy is good, they may have some good income to travel abroad. But the economy is bad, as in the COVID pandemic. It's very difficult for them to have extra money to spend on overseas trip. This has some implication for the ASEAN economic recovery, right? Because because the household expenditure is very low, because household income in the GDP is low. This is low because all the economic economic design, the stock market, the labor market, the ownership, the China's economic development model is not to enrich the private households. It is designed to strengthen the state, to strengthen the parties, to strengthen the Communist Party, and its state-owned enterprise. It's not to promote the welfare of the Chinese households. So this is the political economy aspects, the political economy reason of Chinese household income. Okay, so what's the implication? Now we have to now we come to what's the implication for the ASEAN economic recovery. We talk about tourism. Tourism is we talk about tourism. Tourism is because of pandemic, the ASEAN has been suffer a lot from suffer a lot from from the pandemic, and it's the tourist sectors. That people are talking about the recovery. People believe, oh, after the pandemic, probably Chinese tourists will come back. How Chinese tourists come back if their income is not improved? But how could they improve their income, right? The people will say, well, China, a lot of people are talking about, probably will help with Chinese households, just like the Thai government has done. They have a digital wallet scheme, digital wallet scheme. They give 10,000 baht for each tour for everybody, right? Almost everybody. But would this happen in China? I am teaching a course last semester for political economy, of social economic development. We're discussing the issue with my student. Actually, I put this question as a midterm exam question to the student. And I asked the student, why the Thai government give you 10,000 baht? Why they give the 10,000 baht? Because they want to make you happy. They want you will vote, right? It's in the election. They want your vote. They have to introduce some new campaign promise to make you happy. Then they want your votes. That's the reason there is an initiative. There's the digital wallet initiative, right? But why this will not happen in China? Chinese government will never give the transfer money, helicopter money to their households, because that's not their agenda. That's not on the agenda. The system in place is not to help the consumers. It's not to help the private households. The reason is another reason that is that to be specific, there's no election. Why bother give you? What do they don't have to give you helicopter money, transfer money, right? They don't have to because there's no election. If there's election, they may consider, and they want your votes. But because in China's political system, there's only top-down selection. There's no bottom-up election. That's why the politician never thought about it. The government never thought about it. Give you helicopter money to help with your household budget to improve your spending. They don't do this. They don't do it because traditionally, historically, normally the tourism, normally Chinese household income has already been very low, spending very, very low. They have been save money to prepare for some events like sick or some other events or children's education, but they spend very little. But that's the designed by the system itself. It happened in the past 20 years, 30 years, all the time. But during the pandemic, they suffer a lot. But then the government has no plan and no incentive to make transfer payment to make them life better. They don't have this plan. That's why the tourism recovery we should not be optimistic about this. But on the other hand, because of the situation in China is the political situation has changed. Some people want to move out of China. So there's a lot of people now in Thailand, actually in Thailand, they take advantage of the Thailand privilege card. It's a special long-term visa. They just come to Thailand, live in Thailand, and enjoy life. Then to escape the political hardship. And also they send their kids to international school because they believe the international school in Thailand is good, and they don't have to um, uh, they don't have to if they stay at home, their school has been it's even for international school they are being careful about this uh, the ideology influence of the communist ideology influence, the politicization of the curriculum. They don't want to get brainwashed in the school. They want to have a have a they want to have the kids have education in the Western in the Western education. So Thailand they come to international school. So there's this is the positive sign for the ASEAN economic recovery, not only from Thailand, but also to Malaysia and to other parts of Southeast Asia. So this tourism certainly will not be able to recover in the short term. Even they introduced the free visa, free visa scheme, but this still will not be will not recover in the full. Will not receive reach full recovery in short term. But there are also some good signs. The Thai the people want to get out of China and to move money out of China to find a place to stay. Thailand is a good place. This is another development. It's good for the economic recovery. But in terms of agriculture export to China, the household income is low. Is not good news for the Thai exporter. But on the other hand, we see there's a big increase in the Thai during export to China. But that's not because Chinese suddenly has more money. No, not because of that. That's because there's a transport link has been established to ship Thailand's agricultural goods to China's Yunnan, why they through the law their railway connection, the railway checkpoint was established in the China and Thai in the China Lao border. So that's enabled the Thai agricultural products to sell to ship to China more more easily shipped to China. This is an improvement in the logistics, but the agriculture exports of Thai export to China increase. The increase of agriculture export to China is not because the Chinese household has a higher income, but that's because there's a better logistic. So this is the story we can learn from. So to overcome the economic recovery is because even though the economy is slowed down, the recovery is still slow in China. There's still something we can do. We can do to help with the Thai economy. Transportation, logistics improvement is one aspect. So that's something. It's good sign. It's good news. Another thing you see, because so China is trying to consolidate his state-owned enterprise, and but then if you look at the project in Chinese project, it's the state-owned enterprise funded project, linked project. For example, the China, Laos, and Thailand and Indonesia high-speed railways. Those projects could be, I think, could be has a very is sustainable. Will be sustainable, or anything associated with this China steel enterprise, I think will be receive very strong support at home. But in terms of the foreign Chinese investment, that may not be good news. Example is the Malaysia's forest cities. It's become a ghost town, and because the the Chinese developers certainly has probably backing at home. So it's when you talk about this in ASEAN economic recovery and in relation to China's economic development, you have got to have a political economic perspective. You identify the players who is behind this project, right? Who's behind the project? For the households, it's a tourism. For a private household, that's tourism, and those people will not be come back to China, to Thailand, or to South Asia, recover to the early pre-pandemic level anytime soon. So but it depends. It depends. For the state-owned enterprise, you will see they will continue. It will continue. China will strengthen the state-owned enterprise, or so that's the we'll see the bright, good future for the China, Laos, Thailand, and Indonesia highway, because that's supported by the state. And the private business is to be in trouble. That'll be in trouble in China. So let's take a look at this. The tourism arrival in China, in Thailand for the past several years, for the past 10 years. The pre-pandemic level, the pre-pandemic years in 2019, that's about almost 12 million people. But this year, 2024, the estimate has been from 5 to 8 million tourists for 2024, for this year. That's something similar to the level of 2016. So it takes long. It takes long to see the fully recovery of this tourism in Thailand. But that's, I think, the Thai, business, the tour operators and the tourist authority has full understanding. They have the full understanding. They are aware of this. That's why they don't give a over optimistic. They don't give a over optimistic expectation. 5 to 8 million. That's something much lower than the 2019 number, right? But there's a reason. There are political economic reasons we should understand it. After my lecture, probably you will have a better understanding of this, why they give this very, very conservative estimates. Okay, for the railway connection, this is the map of the rail connection. You see the Thailand is connected to China, to Kunming, via the railway in Laos. Then there's in the border between Laos and China, there's a Mohan. There's a new checkpoint. I think new checkpoint is put into operation last year. That's why we see there's a big increase of Thai agriculture exports, fruits exports to China. So let's explain the that is the explanation. Let's explain the surge, but not the Chinese household income. Household income is suppressed these days, but that's a bad news for Thai exporters. But on the other hand, transportation logistics has been improved. Well, that's good news. So this can offset the positive side of this transportation links, the better transportation links that can offset the depressed Chinese household income. So this is the prospect for economic recovery for agriculture. So this is a summary. Okay, let me summarize my talk. It's in summary, the China is a one-party communist totalitarian regime. This is the nature you have to understand. So you never expect China will give the people's household transfer, the helicopter money or digital wallet, because they don't have to. There are no election. They don't have to do this to win the votes, because they don't have to. They don't need this. And the Thai government give the digital wallet because there's a campaign promise. They want to make the voter happy. Right? That's the story. So sustainable the party state is the only and ultimate goal of the existence. So their whole operation is to make sure the party state is there, is continue to stay, and continue to be in power. So private business and market are introduced only to help generate blood and transfer blood into the failed system central planning. So they encourage private business, but they never expect you to grow too big, to be political, very big, to be politically influential. They don't want, that's something that don't want to happen. They want the private business to be there, but they don't want that to be too big. So the interest group fostered by civil society and free wheeling economy weaken the Communist Party's grip of power. So therefore, the Xi Jinping has to urge to roll back towards central planning and state-owned enterprise and suppress the civil society and private business. The impact on ASEAN are mixed. They have opportunity and they also have challenge. So you have to understand the political economy of Chinese economic development to navigate the turbulent years ahead. Okay, thank you. So I welcome your comment, and you can send me comments, and also you can, if you have questions, I'm available here and to have some discussion with you guys. Okay, I'm done.
Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Chunli Yao, and thank you for attending today's